So here in Section 1 of this Parliamentary Papers Act 1840, there's in the first section is when it's a claim from on behalf of Parliament itself, right? The staff of Parliament make a claim for you, whether it's the clerk, one of the clerks of Parliament or the Commons, or whether it's the Speaker or can be the Chancellor, right? But the miraculous insight and the revelation that I had is that the Act is for us as well. Section 2 is for us because it's you just have an affidavit and a copy of the paper, but if you've got a petition to Parliament, which is through the proper wording, not like what they've modernised it, what they're trying to do by getting it out of the chamber and getting it separate and then modernising it without all the statements is that it's not actually legal anymore. They're trying to de-legalise it, make it not legal. Almost kind of like, they're also doing it with ombudsman complaints. It's just like some form or a complaint to the Commissioner of Standards. It's a complaint. You complain about something, and then if they don't agree with you, they just ignore it. It's not like, when you do an affidavit, it's like, you're saying that it's truth. You're claiming that it's truth and that, whatever. Or when in a petition, like, it's also got your duty and a prayer, right? Like when you swear on the Holy Bible and so forth. They're not taking it seriously anymore in Parliament. It's ironic that they're taking the courts even more serious than ever when they're wanting to prosecute people. But when we want to do legal actions, which are through the legal system in law, they're really trying to kind of like get us out of Parliament. And just like, over the years now, it's just got to superhighway for party policy and not even out of the laws that we want. Just like, the main party policy, like a main party gets in and then Parliament's just for it. It's kind of like that. It's ended up where, like, when you summon a Parliament, it's meant to be summoned by all the people of the country, to sort issues out. And, making and changing laws is just a part of that. But there were lots of different functions as well. And they tried to get rid of all those functions out of Parliament, including our grievances. Supposedly set us up with these alternative dispute resolution, like, the Ombudsman, which is a real pain to get a complaint started. And I don't think that the Ombudsman are that competent. And they're not elected. This is the thing. We're meant to elect MPs to go into Parliament to represent us and our interests from local areas. And they're meant to have committees and certain things to deal with things, and Parliament's meant to be like a court, not like, your MP signs it off, it gets sort of like, passed off to some ombudsman thing, and then some teams who don't know even who they are or who elected them or anything. So, I don't think that they are solving our problems at all. In fact, the problems are getting worse. The ombudsman aren't solving problems because what's happening is, what are the problems? The problems now are not like, you got mistracked by the police on one-off occasion, or, they didn't handle your case properly on this or that, like a random one-off thing, or, the issues that we face are strategic issues. It's like they're manipulating the whole framework of government and changing it to suit the objectives and agendas of these parties who are getting into power, and that's what the actual problems and issues are. So whereby you can't actually get anything done, not only about your complaints, really, because the whole system's corrupt, like this thing about all the election material that is illegal, and the court's not even recognising our rights and not applying the law, particularly when that's a process that we're meant to use ourselves to get it resolved and sorted out. They're all the problems and issues now are all strategic. It's like local councils are not being fair. All this planning permission and communities not being able to... They've deceived us from pursuing private bills to oppose local councils, and they're trying to make out that there's nothing you can do to oppose a council or stop it if it makes a decision, only judicial review, and that's not true. And... the pricing is out of the legal sector, for like parliamentary agents and things like that. And then when it comes to using normal public petitions, they're saying, no, we can't use it for anything useful. And then we're getting sidetracked into these dead-end debates that don't amount to anything and bypassing proper judicial function. And then we've got non-elected e-petition staff who were complete idiots and scandalously traitorous to the whole nation, you know. And then they just said, "Oh, I don't know what you're asking, you know." Well, I just put on oath that it's the truth, right? You know, I just put on oath. That's my statement on oath. And everything that petitioning is meant to be for, they're saying, "Oh, it doesn't exist for that anymore." Anyway, look, right, I've gone off topic now. It's 5 minutes. 24 hours. Here, look. Can you see here? Look, this is an 1840 Act. 24 hours. So, if Parliament are going to write out a certificate, it's called a certificate. It's explicitly called a certificate, right? And that is backed up by the Parliament Act 1911, which was quite a number of years after. Like, certificate from the Speaker shall not be denied, but it cannot adversely affect privilege either way. But when you're using the 1840 Act, it isn't privilege; it's instead of it, right? So that if the Speaker of Parliament gives a certificate to a prosecutor in the court, etc., they cannot ignore it, right? They have to comply with it, right? Now, 24 hours, the prosecutor or a plaintiff, if it's in a civil case, it'll be a plaintiff. If it's a criminal case, it'll be a prosecutor, right? That it's clear that they're giving the prosecutor or the plaintiff a warning by issuing before 24 hours notice to withdraw their charges or case. Why? Because if they don't, they're in contempt of Parliament. That's why. They're actually in contempt of Parliament, so it's like a warning. Baron Denman, they've put some words in at the start of this act saying, like, wise legislation, right? Well, if you're making usage of Parliament, you're usually trying to pursue legislation, getting enacted or a bill put through or an order made, right? Like in the Human Rights Act 1998, 6.6, right? You're pursuing a bill or something through legislation. Standing orders of Parliament by the manual, right? That's what you're doing, not pursuing something through the public authorities. Now, what actually I really realise, which is important in this, is this, right? Which is that Section 2 is really simple. It's like, if you've got a petition to Parliament and it's written out, right, and signed, effectively it is an affidavit, and it says what you're doing. It actually says what your case is, and it's like self-evident. It's like evidence of itself that it exists, right? And whatever paper you've got, but you can also, but the petition is also a parliamentary paper, but you can also you can write out an affidavit and say that, you know, I believe this to be the truth, right? You know, or you just a little kind of statement that I am petitioning Parliament and here is the petition, right? And these facts are true. Now, it says that that's enough for the claim. So you basically show them your petition, or you write out an additional extra affidavit to that court, and your petition is the parliamentary paper, right? So it's either like you can. I think the petition itself is actually the affidavit, right? And then if there's any other papers, it might be an advertisement, right? It might be an advertisement telling people about the petition. It might be an advertisement in the newspaper telling people where they can sign the petition, right? That is, you are told to do that through standing orders. Let's say it's a private bill, right? The advert in the newspaper of the private bill is a parliamentary paper, right? For what petition or for what private bill, right? If you're doing you can do a petition for a private bill, that's for sure, right? So the petition from the private bill, if signed with the official legal statements on it, with the so that would effectively be an affidavit to Parliament, right? And then if you've got the newspaper advert which promotes that private bill, you got your paper and the freaking petition. But if you want to say, even if you want to argue that the petition is not an affidavit to the court, then you can still write an affidavit out to the court, and then your actual, you know, petition for a private bill or public petition or newspaper advert or all of those things are your papers, right? So either way, whichever. And the current modern affidavit form actually is really simple and perfect. Now, let's say the prosecutor and the court don't uphold your claim, right? Well, it would be ridiculous for them to, because like if you're telling the truth, right, and you swear it on affidavit and oath, right, and you are doing what you say you're doing, like when I went to court, the ironic thing when I went to court is he didn't say that I was lying or making it up. Right, he believed me that I said I was doing what I was doing at the time, but he didn't think that. He thinks that like Parliament doesn't exist, or like petitioning Parliament is not a thing. Well, what is it? He's not like like buying cockles and winkles at the beach. It's like no, this is a thing. It's called Parliament, right? They make the law. Did you know that? And you can do cases to them, like it exists, right? Some like Egypt judge or something, clue, like, what country am I in? Well, it's England, Oh, I haven't heard that one for a long time. Well, the Crown Prosecution Service have only been around since 1986, I've got a football sticker album, Mexico 86, I used to go swap stickers at, listers, going with the stickers and swap. Got any swaps? Swap stickers, right? Look, there's this tumultuous petitioning act sticker here or something like, Oh, I heard that one for a while. How long have you been a judge for? Well, about 12 years, 15 years. Well, I've been around longer than that, who was teaching these people, Professor Mark Elliott, look, so if the court or prosecutor or anyone does not accept your claim, this is when we're getting into John Tinker now. This is where everything fits together with ultimate genius now. It's like, John Tinker in the 1944 committee report, it's like, oh yeah, people are normally getting a resolution in the courts, right? Well, obviously getting a resolution in the courts if they know the law, right? And you're making a proper claim, right? But apparently everyone was doing petitioning in the 1990s because everyone's like, people are thick, right? Well, there were lots of campaigners doing campaigns and parliamentary causes, but they must not know what they're doing, right? And then when you've got them moving it out, trying to move it out of the chamber and try to modernise it, take away all the oaths and everything like from that, and then when you've got like, Parliament off to the Ombudsman or Parliament off to the Parliamentary Commissioner, right? So it's always just a complaint. It's just called a complaint, right? Nothing special, no oaths or affirmations, no affidavits, it's just a complaint. We call it a complaint now, right? Not using any special law or legislation here. Nothing to see here, right? Or what are all these, swampy, like stop Newbury bypass or whatever, save Stonehenge from a tunnel or whatever it is, what are all these, save the animals, or fair enough, charities might not be asking anything from government or parliament, but a lot of charities do pursue getting legislation change, like for cosmetic testing and all kinds of stuff like that, right? But a lot of them, some of them are just purely pressure groups on companies, on businesses, like on science labs or experiments and just raising awareness. Not all of them are trying to get Parliament to legislate or act in the matter. Some of them are just like campaigning generally to get people awareness to try to, diplomatic, persuade companies, not to do this or that, which is sort of like what Extinction Rebellion are getting into now. But they are also trying to pursue legislative resolutions, as well. But anyway, maybe I've kind of gone off topic a bit now. So look, right, John Tinker, 1944 committee report, he says that most people are getting a resolution in the courts, right? So that would be by using Section 2 of that Parliamentary Papers Act, right? You go into court, you put your affidavit, you swear it's the truth, and you produce the evidence to show that it is the truth, right? And they apply the actual law, and then that's it, done. Now, let's say they don't abide by that, and you don't get a resolution in the court. Well, actually, that's when John Tinker says, right, oh, isn't there that, you can go to the Bar of Parliament, with a petition of grievance of privilege, that your privilege has been violated, then, oh, yes, that's it. That's it, John. We'll go to the Bar of Parliament and complain that the courts and the CPS didn't uphold my claim. You just ignored it, right? That's the one. Now we'll be using Section 1 of the Parliamentary Papers Act. Now get the Speaker to act now. Never mind this, William Prynne and, Sir Edward Coke and writs of privilege, the ancient writs of privilege. We discontinued those, after the 1688 Bill of Rights because it's constitutional law, has to be recognised. Well, that may be the case, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be getting recognised. even though Baron Denman reintroduced clearly a certificate from the Speaker in 1840, right? Or from, it doesn't even have to be the Speaker or the Chancellor. It can just be Simon Burton or Tom Goldsmith, right? Oh no, the courts aren't upholding my privileges. I need to complain about it. We need to get it enforced. Well, don't worry. We'll just write you this little certificate out, which actually, it turns out it only has to be about one paragraph, right? It's not actually it's actually a paragraph which just has to contain certain particulars, right? It's not actually a proper, swimming award certificate type thing. It actually basically, it says a certificate with affidavit. So what it will be is it's like, it tells you what it has to say in the act, right? It actually tells you what they've got to write. Just they've got to write like a summary of, just like the case and who it is and that you're doing what you say you're doing effectively. And then when you put the stamp on it, the official seal of Parliament, the stamp, that's official, right? So, and the affidavit, obviously they've got to, say they're telling the truth or whatever. So it's a certificate with an affidavit that's the truth. But your petition is the affidavit to Parliament. So they could actually send a copy of your petition with the certificate to SIC, because, Parliament, might, to prove that the Parliament are telling the truth and not lying. They say, look, we swear this is truth and here is his papers, right? But they've got to give 24 hours notice, because this is a thing. Now, this is when the prosecutor, you see, if the prosecutor or the plaintiff and the court don't then obey that certificate and withdraw, then they're in contempt, right? So they've got to do that. And after 1911, you cannot actually, when the Speaker issues a certificate, you cannot, the court can't ignore it. And this is then what we've got, like, all the John Hatzel book is full of all those calling in the justices and the bailiffs and the sheriffs, etc., into the Parliament on contempt. Say, like, you're going to, and they say, are you going to drop these charges or what? Or we're going to lock you up, This is the thing. But, you shouldn't get to that stage, and this is why Baron Denman said wise legislation, It's like, there's some wise legislation, so we have to call everyone into Parliament on contempt. We'll give them a chance, where the petitioner can do it. Now, they're not supposed to be legislating on privilege, because privilege is not common law. And they don't want any precedents to be set on it by the courts, because the courts can't set precedents on privilege, right? This is why it says it will not affect privilege either way of any judgments, because this act isn't privilege, right? It isn't parliamentary privilege. It's like privilege. But what Baron Denman's done with this act is, like, he's gone like, okay, if we were going to claim privilege in court, how would we go about doing it, right? What would we do? Like going, probably have to have an affidavit to say that you're claiming the truth and then show your document, right? It would be something a little bit like this. Like, this is how you do it. And then if they don't uphold it, if they're just like fucking you off, right? Then you come into Parliament and then they get the big bad boy certificate out and say, look, and then, that's the thing, the big bad boy certificate out and, like, you will stop now, right? And then obviously after 1911, they can't say no to it, but it says that you can't use that certificate will affect privilege. Well, it doesn't, because you're not actually using privilege when you use that 1840 Act. So that 1911 Act clause does apply to the 1840 Act, and really that would be the absolute final, because if you don't have, by that 1911 Act, you send it in, and it's the court actually cannot lawfully disagree with it or not comply. So after that, you wouldn't really have any contempt claims if you were able to get the certificate from Parliament, because there is no, there's no negotiations. So it was just like absolute, like, stop, right? You know what I mean? It's like stop button basically, and it actually is a good idea, because then, but this is the thing, there's a lot, these courts have been, lying to people. They can't be that thick, the CPS and the police and that, and all this other nonsense about all these, prescribed groups, when, they're not all prescribed groups, they're not all terrorists, they're actually using, trying to get Parliament to act in a matter, legally privileged. and lots of other things as well. Which they've really tried to fade it from the memory, particularly, in 1980, they had the privileges in the Manual of Procedure of Public Business still, and then the next book after it had gone, and then the last book, then the book's gone, right? They don't even have the book anymore, and they're hoping that, then the Public Order Act was going from 1936, is meant to be fully compatible with that, right? But when the Public Order Act 1986, they're hoping that, because, you see, so much of the Petitioning Act repeal, you don't need any permissions or consents, but it was good because you actually, if you wanted to do it properly, you could actually get a proper court order to support you and back you up. It leaves you with that they're trying to make out there's this thing called general political protest, and it's not attached to any particular cause, and supposedly they're not trying to get Parliament to do anything. So I don't know what political cause is not trying to get Parliament to do something, right? And it's just kind of like almost like some kind of like I don't know. It's like static. It's not like plugged into anything. It's just static. It's like static electricity, like static political protesting. It's not actually connected to anything. This is not connected to anything going through Parliament, trying to make or change a law. Trying to oppose digital ID or whatever. Trying to advertise people to vote against it, or give evidence against it, or sign any petitions against it, or anything like that. It's just trying to like some kind of, and that you see, that empowers the police, because then the police, we don't have any protections, and then the police can go arresting people, and then when they're arresting people, they can stop people going around places, and they can stop people clicking signatures, and stop people making a strong demonstration or appearance. And then, like in America, when they're confined to certain protest areas, we're going to go collect signatures in twos, like 2 by 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 2, going walking around in twos or whatever. It's not a very strong representation, but, yeah, I mean, they're slowly just, they're stripping everything away, unfortunately, and then, you end up with this ridiculous e-petition service with unelected persons on it. They won't even tell you who they are. They're making judicial determinations before your petition's even been officially received or handed in. And then they try to stop the community from raising awareness about issues and coming together to put their hand in the signature to say that, they think that it is, true and in good order, or on oath, and all the legal and judicial statements on there. Oh, we're modernising. This isn't modern. It's for business format. Well, we're not doing business. This isn't a business enterprise, right? This is not a business enterprise. It's politics, democracy, right? It's a court, the High Court of Parliament. Isn't it bewildering, right? Is it not bewildering that they haven't modernised the courts? Like, when you get these, it's people like Rees-Mogg and some of these, coffee canteen women who are in Parliament, like in the Michael Westwood petition, going, oh, there's been a lot of foreign interference in this petition. What? You mean like Sadiq Khan and his little, Agenda 2030 crew, like, who've been introducing all the ideas, legislation into British government, from overseas, like that kind of foreign interference, right? People like that who are like, oh, general protesting, not particularly about one political cause or another. And they're like, oh, we need to, I'm on the modernisation committee. What, you mean they're stripping the public of their rights committee, the depowering the public committee, the give us more power and then more less power, the modernisation committee. I've never heard as much absolute, complete, utter nonsense and tosh as a modernisation committee, right? Like, oh yeah, it's like we've got the telephone now, didn't you know that? It's like, oh, we've got social media as well, and look at all these election campaigns we've got on there. Look, bring up Jeremy Corbyn. Hello, Jeremy. Oh, hello, re-elect Jeremy Corbyn, your independent candidate for Islington. Re-elect Jeremy Corbyn. Vote for Jeremy Corbyn. Actually, I didn't vote for Jeremy Corbyn this time. I voted for someone else, but, I'm actually trying to speak to Jeremy now on the telephone, but he's just playing vote for Jeremy Corbyn messages. Like, he's on his social media, he's just like going, hey, look, it's your party, vote for your party, support your party. So just a minute, what's going on here? Like, it's modernisation. Look, there's a strangers bar in Parliament. Come and have a drink with Jeremy Corbyn in the strangers bar in Parliament. Sit with Jeremy Corbyn, your best friend and buddy, super social Jeremy Corbyn. Have a seat in the chamber, hold Jeremy's hand while he votes, give him a cuddle. The microphone's coming down from the roof now, right? Look. Cuddly Jeremy Corbyn, come and socialise with Jeremy Corbyn in the main Parliament chamber, none of this, glass, apparently, glass sheets to silence the gallery or whatever, it's social now, Parliament social, it's all about social media, social politics, social media, and if it's for communicating with an MP, right, for casework, just post it, where's the data protection and all that, confidentiality? They're trying to make out, right, that Facebook is an official contact method for contacting your MP, right, for casework, right? So you go on there, let's say you're a little bit like Forrest Gump or something like that, right? Oh, look, and then you type it in the box. You can put messages here and replies. It's confidential casework information. I don't know how they managed to get this through. They've pulled a fast one on us, right? And then they're like, rolling the eyeballs, going tutting like this. We're just doing a bit of social media, it's just trendy, it's the latest technology, God, like the tut, roll the eyes like MPs, no, excuse me, right? It's like, no, everyone's going on social media now, it's cool, we want to go on there. We want to go on social media. We want to be popular and have loads of fans on a Facebook page and be, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, right? It's like a little protest tantrum. We want social media. But it's you're advertising your fucking election campaigns on there, right? It's criminal. Look, all right, I'll email fucking Suella Braverman, at parliament.com. I've got an email back. Oh, look, it's fucking Nigel Farage and Reform. Vote for Nigel Farage, Reform UK, Suella Braverman, the new candidate. Just a minute. I'll just fucking write an email to Tom Burton here. Oh, look. Hi, it's Tom. Come for a drink with me in the strangers bar. It's social media. Come, House of Commons Open Day, Tuesday the 13th. Have a drink with Tom Goldsmith. Have a Goldschmeister with Tom Goldsmith and a Christmas snowball with Simon Byrne in the Strangers Bar. And a little dance as well. Move the benches out of the way. Take the fucking books off the table. Oh look, there's that MP here. You can remember the guy who ran off with a mace, right? Look, it's the Scottish Highland Games or something, swinging the mace between his legs, see if he can knock someone out in the fucking gallery with it. What's happening to Parliament? It's not modernisation. It's it's not modernisation. It's actually, it's unravelling sense and logic. It's like, hey, we're modernising the Crown Court. You don't have to do affidavits or statements anymore. It's just a complaint, complain to the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman. Complain to the court. Has someone punched me in the face? I'm not happy about it. Oh, what a shame. Well, sir, just write your complaint down here, we'll have a look at it. Don't get the jury in, who's this? Oh, that's Mr. Smith from, the Conservative Club. What's he doing in the court? Oh, we're modernising now. We don't have judges and magistrates swearing all these oaths in, on fear or favour or anything like that, It's just John, Oh, hello, John. All rise. No, don't have to stand up. Don't stand up. I'm just John now. It's not a court. This is not a court of law. We're modernising. We're convening. I don't know what these modernisation committees are. They got their modernising mixed up with their, it's tech. You know, technology, they're trying to make out that they're using the guise of modernization to actually dismantle all of the officiality of anything that we can engage in from our side. So, you know, whenever it's us or anything for us, it's not official, right? Not enforceable or actionable or anything. It's just like a complaint, right? And then every single thing they do, like, oh, it's super, super important, and, you know, it's like the most important, serious thing. And it's like, you know, the authority or whatever. And that's where we're ending up now. And this is actually, you know, this is meant to put a stop to it all. This isn't meant to just stop what they're doing. Like, stop now. And if they don't, you're going to go into Parliament, and then Parliament's going to make them stop, right? So it gives you an opportunity to get them to stop in Section 2. And if they don't, then you use Section 1. And that's what John Tinker was talking about. And this is what those manuals of procedure have got in them. And what the ultimately the 1911 Parliament Act really has a empowering effect on the 1840 Act. And that's when they were knocking out a lot of good legislation around 1911, like the Public Meeting Act and things like that. You know, that Copyright Act 1911 for public political speeches. But that the election laws will still apply to those political speeches. You can have lots of different political speeches, you know. You can have a political speech about a private bill, you know. Other laws do apply.